I've watched Medicaid in Texas expenses go from 14% of our budget when I was elected to now 38% of our budget. And if something doesn't change, in 5 years, it's going to pass 50%. Now, that's less money for schools, for prisons, for highways, for all of our other needs if something doesn't change. If you look at our demographics of what's ahead for Texas, 2 fastest growing segments of our population, the very young and the very old. Those are exactly the 2 segments of our population that make up the majority of Medicaid. We got to do something differently. On Finance Committee, going back, everything ties into money, and I was looking for ways to save money. And I zero in on the health and human service expenditures. If you look at, we have a list of drugs that the state buys with state dollars for those who can't afford it, and that runs the gambit from people in our nursing homes to people on Medicaid, prisoners. We have a huge population, and we buy these drugs in bulk. So I was looking at by the way, 2 sessions ago, I found Viagra in the top 10. Yeah, no, it's not there anymore. No. But if you look at what drugs we are spending most of our money on, they are almost all drugs that are treating preventable illnesses. I give a lot of talks to groups that are health-related groups and groups that aren't political activists and about health issues. And what I talk about over and over again is accepting responsibility for our own health. We don't need the government telling us what to do. Thank you. And I'm frightened. I'm frightened for our kids is who I'm really frightened for. You should see what I see. I mean, if you look at the under 4 years old population in Texas, over 50% of them are obese. Under 4. And I care about those kids. I care about their quality of life. If you want to look at it in a pure dollars and cents side, when they start getting older and the diseases that are obesity related that will be very, very expensive, we need to change the way we're doing things. And it's pretty basic. I'm very proud to have passed the bill that put physical education back in our schools. I think that's I can't believe we took it out. Let me mention, I have been giving lots of speeches, and I do Q&A, and there are 3 questions that I get asked often. One of them is what I think of the national health care proposal, and I always tell people exactly what I think about that. Socialized medicine is not the answer, and you will have rationing. You can't not, and it's going to cost us $1 trillion. That's not what we need to do. We need to be focused in on the real problem, and that is people being responsible for their health, doing what their mothers told them to do. Don't eat at McDonald's too often, and don't smoke, and don't drink, and don't wear your seatbelt, and all those real basic things. We would all be healthier. We'd be better for it. The government doesn't need to be passing all the laws to make us do what we should know that we should do. And another question I'm asked often is, so who are you supporting as our next governor? And I always tell them, the Republican candidate. I'm up for re-election. I'm not picking sides in that battle. But and the other question that people ask me often is, so what bill did you pass last session that you're most proud of? And I'm going to share that with you. Back before last session, I was sitting with some teachers and talking, and they were telling me that, I said, what do you need help with? How can we help things? And they were talking about a policy that was in place that requires teachers to give grades at least a 70 or above. And I said, no. And they said, no, in middle school even, they will, homework time for the child to pass in their paper, they have their name and the date written, and they pass it in, nothing on it, they get a 70, because the teacher's not allowed to give them less than a 70. And I said, no, I don't believe that. Why don't you guys complain? Well, if they complain, they'll come down on them. And I thought, well, this must be unique. I started asking teachers. And everywhere I went and asked teachers, they said, yes, it varied. Sometimes it was a 55, 60, but teachers were not allowed to give a child a grade that the child had earned. I thought, this is nuts. So when we went into session, sitting on finance, the Commissioner of Education came before us. And I said, well, Commissioner, before we start talking about your budget, let me ask you a question. And I told him, and I asked him if he had heard of this. He said, no. I said, well, what's going on? Next time you get around some teachers, you ask them. He went to a large teachers statewide convention that next weekend. And he looked me up in my office on Monday and he said, Senator, I am so sorry. I asked him how many of them had this minimum grade policy, and more than half their hands went up. I said, well, okay, you're going to help me write a bill because we are not going to allow this. And it's one of those beautiful bills that anybody could understand. It's in plain English. It's not long, but it said a teacher shall not be required to give a grade higher than that which the teacher believes the child deserves. And now, we all didn't do well on a test, and I strongly believe in a child being given the opportunity to make up work if they want to go back and read and outline and retake the test. That's great. That's a good teacher. But for a child to turn in a test with their name on it and nothing else is fibbing to that child to give them a 70. That is wrong, and anything else we do is irrelevant. No wonder they're doing poorly on these tests if we don't teach them. So anyway, I thought that was a no-brainer bill, and you would have thought I filed a bill to do away with the Constitution. I mean, there was so much opposition. Well, we worked hard. I had to shame a couple of my colleagues into voting for it, but it passed, and I am very, very proud of that bill. I think it will do more to improve the education our children are getting than just about anything else we could do. And that goes right back to, personal responsibility. Have parents ask the children to see their homework. Ask them, about their day. Turn off the TV. Ultimately, I know, I've got so many things I could share with you, but bottom line is we have such opportunity ahead of us right now to turn this ship around. I'm an optimist. I am not, I shudder when I think of the debt we're leaving our children and our grandchildren. But I don't believe that it's over. It's not over. The public gets it. We need to provide the leadership and the oomph to make sure that they get out to the polls and vote, that we identify our Republicans, our conservatives, and get those people to the poll to make sure that we do take it back. Thank you again for all you do. I'm so very grateful to represent you.